G'day all, number one Machop fan here with another episode of Machop's Musings. As you would probably know from my recent vlog, I just got back from the Pokémon video game World Championships held in San Francisco, California. I had the time of my life at those World Championships, and I learned a lot. In this Machop's Musings, I'll actually be sharing a lot of what I learned. First of all, don't be afraid to innovate. I did try and innovate a little bit. I ran a generic Zerndon team, but I used Tornadus instead of Thundurus because with Icy Wind, it could slow down Groudon, which Thundurus can't do, while also doing a chunk of damage to Smeargle, Salamence, Rayquaza kind of thing. And although VGC 16 had a reputation of being a very narrow metagame with only very few viable Pokemon, we actually saw quite a bit of innovation, especially in Day 2. For example, World Champion Wolfie Glick and his friend Marcus Stadter both used Hitmontop, which interestingly was not a very common Pokemon this season. They actually brought back Top Ogre from VGC 2010 as part of their Rayogre archetype. A little bit more on that later. Also, my good friend Sam Pandelis used a Scarf Smeargle with Taunt. Very rare, if you see it at all, to see that on a Smeargle, but it proved to be very useful in dealing with faster support Pokemon, namely Crobat. Secondly, I found it was better to go anti-meta. We expected to see a lot of Big B or Bronzong Dual Primal teams, Big B being a Big 6 variant, so Kangaskhan, Smeargle, Xerneas, Groudon, Salamence, and Bronzong instead of the usual Talonflame. Bronzong Dual Primals obviously including Bronzong, Kyogre, and Groudon, and I think they often have Salamence and Thundurus as well. They were the meta. But everyone knows those teams. Everyone knows how to beat them, and as such, everyone will team build and prepare accordingly. As I mentioned earlier with Wolf Glick's and Marcus Stadter's Rayogre team, although Rayogre, which is Rayquaza and Kyogre, is itself a very common archetype, this particular Rayogre team was built specifically to beat Zerndon and Dual Primal teams. And that's, if they faced plenty enough of those for Marcus Stadter to make the top 4, face Wolfie Glick in the semis, and then Wolfie Glick to make it all the way to World Champion. Next, and this was something I kind of expected going into the World Championships, don't be afraid to take risks. Not everybody makes the obvious plays. One interesting example I encountered and was able to pull off twice in as many rounds, interestingly round 1 and 2, was leading Kangaskhan Smeargle versus a Thundurus and something else. I think, say for instance, Salamence. The Smeargle I used was Scarfed, so I forgot to mention was Sam Pandelis'. That's how he was able to beat Crobat, with a Scarf Smeargle with Taunt. My Scarf Smeargle didn't have Taunt, but obviously it had Dark Void. Both times, I took a risk by not faking out the Thundurus, they don't always carry Protect, and instead switching Smeargle out to Xerneas and doing a side pup, so having Kangaskhan Mega Evolve and use Power Up Punch on the partner slot. Both times I called it correctly. The opponent protected both of his Pokemon. In hindsight though, watching my friend Sam Pandelis play and doing something similar, and he's famous for his side pups, I should not have actually switched. My Smeargle, like Sam's, was EV trained to survive a partner's power-up punch in case that exact situation arose, and I was dumb enough to not take advantage. Ah well. But yeah, in hindsight, if I had kept Smeargle in, side-pupped it while double protecting, the next turn, the Thundurus would find itself in a bit of an ultimatum. Would it cripple the Kangaskhan with Thunder Wave and leave itself wide open to a Scarf Dark Void? Or would it taunt the Smeargle and then fall to a return? Kind of thing. I would have been in a better position. That's a mistake I learned from. To quote Richie from the anime, Now I know what mistakes not to make next time, and I'm a better trainer because of that. Next up, have a plan at Team Preview and choose your Pokemon around that plan. Remember that your main goal is to have a strategy, try and get that strategy to work, while at the same time stopping your opponent's strategy and stopping them from trying to stop yours, because they're trying to do the same thing. But the idea at Team Preview is to look at their team, think about what they've got, or what you think they've got, thankfully it's best of 3 so it's easy to adapt, and ask yourself, how do I go about beating this team? What strategy do I use? In my case, for example, my team with the aforementioned Tornadus, facing a Bronzong Dual Primals team, if memory serves, I faced 3 of those. My focus was on shutting down the Bronzong and stopping Trick Room. So I had 2 ways of doing that. One was to try and taunt it, although it may have a Mental Herb, or use Smeagol's Dark Void, although it may have a Lumberry, or in one case, one actually had a Chesto Berry. If memory serves, that team had a Cresselia as well. She probably had the Lumberry. But best of 3 being as it is, if the item blocks one, I can just in game 2 use the other, with the same goal. Although the opponent may adapt to that and play differently. Still, adaptability is nonetheless a big, important factor. And that's something I definitely feel I need to work on, because it's been ages since I did well in best of 3. I performed badly at the National Championships, and the last best of 3 I did was back when we were doing Premier Auckland Regionals, now that I remember. 3 of our 6 rounds back then in Swiss were best of 3, plus the finals. Next, try not to be too reckless against Pokemon that are vulnerable. Normally I have this down pat, but my mindset admittedly wasn't really the best while I was at the World Championships. More on that later. So, if an opposing Pokemon looks like it's an easy KO, don't expect it to be an easy KO unless you feel the opponent doesn't have a safe switch. Expect it to switch out to something more appropriate, or use Protect. For example, if you've got a Xerneas and they've got a Salamence, no one's going to leave a Salamence in against a Xerneas without protection, because it could easily fall to a Moonblast even if it hasn't had a Geomancy boost on it yet. So naturally, the Salamence user is going to switch to, say, Bronzong. That's an obvious move. So you want to try and make your move accordingly. Lastly, as I said before, keep calm and carry on. Being at the World Championships, of course that's exciting. But that excitement can throw off one's mindset, and having the wrong mindset in a tournament can kill entire tournament runs. The World Championships, I managed to go 4 wins, 4 losses, although 2 of those losses came down to speed ties, and in one case, a speed tie and a successful share cold. Because I felt the pressure of being at the World Championships. Likewise, I performed disappointingly with a 5-4 ratio at Australia's National Championships because my mindset there was wrong, because I was coming off 2 other 5-4 runs at 2 previous National Championships. And that honestly, that actually worries me about the upcoming National Championships where I have run the risk of doing it again. I pretty much conceded. But I learned a lot as I went, and I understand now how important the mindset is. You need to go in confident. If you're not confident, you're not going to do well. And that's it for now. Leave a comment below if I missed something, if you disagree with something. I'm all for feedback. And any feedback you give, other people are going to see as well. And you'll help the game grow. So, yep, that is it for now. See you next time.